For most people, the paranormal is a set of quaint stories meant to unnerve you around the campfire, something to watch from the safety of a screen. But for Dr. Bill Slevin, it's been his life's reality, his life's work. From his earliest days as a child, staring into the eyes of the unexplainable, to standing in the darkened halls of the world's most haunted places, face to face with forces that want you to believe they don't exist. Bill has walked where most would run. And tonight, we open the case files of a man who has dedicated over 3 decades to confronting the dead, battling the darkest entities, and protecting the lives at all costs. Paranormal investigator, parapsychologist, demonologist, and a man who knows better than anyone the price of living life haunted. Bill Slevin, our guest, next, right here on the Paranormal 60.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney.
He won't float. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Good evening, Darklings. Welcome to another episode of the Paranormal 60. Dr. Bill Slevin, our guest, his book, Living Life Haunted, A True Journey Through the Paranormal. And we have a link for that book on tonight's program guide so that you can check it out, watch it, read the book. And again, remember to rate and review as well. Welcome to the program, Dr. Bill Slevin. Thank you so much for being here, Bill.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, this is a pleasure. And boy, I'm excited. You got this book launch, big drop. Looks amazing. What made you decide this is the time that you want to tell your story?
Well, the time's been about the past 3 years that I've been working on this and changing my mind and going back. And, it's something I've wanted to do over the last about 3 or 4 years. And I started probably about 3 years ago, and I started changing it. I would do a little bit, and then I'd get stuck, and then I'd go back, and I didn't like what I wrote. The problem is when you have, over 3 decades, there's so much to put in. I was getting lost on what I should put, what I shouldn't put. And I wanted to tell more of my journey, not just my cases. So I had to, it took me a bit to get it together. And then I finally got it all done this year.
So what you're telling me is this is not the definitive book. This is just the first of many that will tell your story.
It definitely can be, because there's no way I could put even a fraction of the cases I've been part of. I put a few of the real bad ones, a few of the good ones, and some interesting ones. And I wanted to tell a little bit more also about how I got into this, what it's like doing this, the dangers, everything that kind of people may not see when they watch a show or read a book. It's more about just cases, and they're in there, but I wanted to do it a little different.
What is your earliest memory of becoming aware to the paranormal?
So back when I started, it was very, very different. There was no TV shows. It was very hard to get in touch with people who did this, without them thinking you're crazy.
Right.
And, when I was young, I didn't know what an empath was. I didn't know when I would go, there was things like even like family parties I would go to, and I would start getting depressed for no reason. And I thought it was me. I didn't realize I was picking up on the emotions of the people in the room, or maybe the people I don't see in the room. But I didn't know that stuff because we didn't talk about that. I was raised in a Catholic household, and we didn't really talk about things like that. So I remember, seeing things and experiencing things that I wasn't sure if it was something or if I was a little crazy at the time. So even back all the way to when I was like 8 or 9 or 10 years old, I remember experiencing some things, but not realizing until later on what they actually were.
So it wasn't an indoctrination by flame then. I mean, it wasn't like you were being tortured from an early age with the
No,
supernatural and paranormal, as we hear from so many people. When
no,
you
not at all.
had things that seemed out of the blue or out of place, Did you have a safe place to go? Did you have people to talk to about this? Were your parents or your family open about it?
Not really. I mean, I didn't bring it up much back then because I didn't know how they would take it. Again, being in a Catholic household, it wasn't like they were so strict that I couldn't talk about it. But I didn't at that age. When you're young, I didn't really want to bring it up because, again, I would have thought, they were thinking there's something wrong with me or what's going on. But I just always was drawn to it. I didn't have those crazy, crazy experiences when I was young, but I was drawn to everything paranormal, horror. It was just, I don't know. I was always drawn to it since I was little.
Well, a lot of people would say, okay, hearing that then, Bill, aren't you kind of, I don't know, predisposed to maybe having experiences that aren't legitimately experiences, and it's more hopeful or more expectation due to growing up not afraid of monster movies and and the paranormal that way?
Sure. The problem is I'm also going through this and learning. Like the minute I got really into this, I started learning. I started reading every book I could find. I started researching. I started learning the difference because I didn't want to just have it. Okay, I had an experience, and what was that? I wanted to know what it was. I was very skeptical, so I researched, and I even now, like with what I do, I've had 33 years in the IT field, so I know how to understand what equipment does. Back then it was a little different, but I
Sure.
was still the same way. I was very analytical in what I did. I didn't just assume something was a ghost or assume, something was some kind of strange occurrence I was having. I looked into it and tried to figure out what was real.
Did you have mentors in this field when you began?
There was some people I met along the way.
Mhm.
I mean, of course, Ed and Lorraine Warren, I wish I would have had the pleasure of meeting them, but I never did. But I had a few people that were from multiple teams that I started with way, way back that don't even do this anymore. An actual priest from a church where I was that actually helped me with getting into demonology and everything. So there are some people that kind of catapulted me at the beginning. And then along the way, I kind of learned from everybody. Everybody I encountered, everybody I worked with, there's always some way to learn from somebody in this field. It's not a competition. It's always the people have always been really, really good with me and learning and teaching from each other.
You say that here you've got a preacher that's willing to work with you and help you deal with the demonology aspect. How does one make that phone call? What is that like? Hey, Father, you had a great sermon today, and I kind of want to battle demons. Can you give me a hand? I mean, how do you broach that subject and not have them laugh you out of the church or warn you out of it?
Well, I was never shy. I'll tell you that. I definitely was never shy. But what happened was in 1989, after my first actual residential case, which turned out to be a rare demonic case. And, for me, they are very rare, but it
Mhm.
was just that's why I say it was like a calling because that was my first case. And after that, when I came out of that case and I watched the guy get attacked right next to me, most people like that team, they stopped working. They never did this again after that case.
Right.
Um, it kind of launched me down the rabbit hole because I wanted to know what that was, what happened, because I didn't know what demons were back then. I thought that was a ghost. So I actually reached out to the priest at my church and I asked to sit down and talk to him and told him what I experienced and wanted to know where I go with this. And he actually studied, demonology, and he used to actually go assess cases. So he kind of took me under his wing a little bit and taught me some things at first. So it was a way to. I was lucky enough that I found a priest that was okay talking with everybody about this.
Right. Without making you feel
Yeah.
weird or bizarre talking about it and being open. But you say that, at first you didn't know different. You just thought it was a ghost. What set it off or made it a different for you that you realized this wasn't just
Well,
Casper you were dealing with?
well, the thing was, again, from reading and from researching, and from going out on my own and going to cemeteries and things, just trying to learn what I was doing. You never encountered anything like we did when we went into this house, and we were there for 5 minutes. and the guy
Wow.
next to me got full on attacked with 3 scratches on from his neck to the bottom of his spine. And, like I tell people, I said, if that would have happened today, I didn't know them that well. I would have thought for sure this was for publicity or they figured, but this happened right next to me and this was not talked about back then. So when we left there, they were frightened out of their minds. I was scared. I'll never say I was not scared on a case like that, but it made me wonder, like, what was that? Like, why, why, if that was a ghost, why did it do that? And they have that kind of power, what am I getting into? That's kind of what I was, but I wanted to know, I wanted to understand what it was. Because I just didn't accept it like, okay, that was a ghost or a demon or whatever. I didn't know. And I wanted to know the truth.
Can you give us a little insight? I mean, as to what about it made it so powerful? I mean, what were the actions that it was doing?
So when we went into that house, first thing was there was a smell. Like when we first walked in, the 3 of us ran out of the house within a minute as soon as we walked in the front door because something made us extremely nauseous. I didn't smell anything at first, but something was extremely, just all 3 of us ran out onto the front lawn and we kind of gathered ourselves. And, I'm thinking all kind of things. Is it, something in your carbon monoxide? Is something going on? Because I never saw anything, experienced anything like that. And then when we went back in and we went into the first room to set up, again, back then, guys had big shoulder mounted cameras and we're in the pitch black. And all of a sudden, this guy next to me just screams like I've never heard, and we flipped the lights on and got everything. And he threw his camera, lens first to the floor. And when he lifted up his shirt, it's what I saw that kind of made me, those were 3 razor thin scratch marks that were bleeding. The weird thing was it didn't go through his shirt. It was something that I never experienced and I didn't understand like what would do something like that. And you can
Right.
feel the heaviness in the house, which I have never felt anything like that up to that point. I've felt some things, but I've never felt anything like that. It was a very, very different level.
Can you give me a little insight into, okay, how do you deal with a case like that, especially when it's your first? I mean, is this something then you just realize, I got to tap out and we got to get in a more vested investigative group, or do you hang in and learn from the new group? How does that unfold?
Yeah, well, what happened was this was another group and they had it was a friend, a friend of a friend that said, "Hey, I know somebody that they need an extra investigator for the night because one of their guys is sick." So that's why I went. They had never been to the house before. This was the first time they were going there. They only talked to the older lady that lived there. So when we got there, they didn't know what to expect. And when that happened, we immediately got out of the house because nobody in there, me or the other 2 guys, nobody had experience in something like this. So they actually told the lady, like, you need to go stay at somebody's house or stay in the, stay in a hotel or something for a couple nights. And then they went to the clergy and they got somebody to come in and help them because they were totally not prepared for that at all. And like I said, they were totally retired after that case. They did not want to experience anything like that again.
That's amazing, right? I mean, the fact that, well, first that you went to the clergy and the clergy decided to help right away, because as you and
Yeah.
I both know, that's not always the case.
No, it's not. It's not. They knew somebody, they had a connection to somebody, and they came over right away. Unfortunately, like I even say in the book, I have that story in the book. Unfortunately, I was not brought back when they went back there. I know what happened, and I know they did a minor rite of exorcism in the house, and they blessed the whole house, and everything went away. They said they believed it was a demonic infestation, and it hadn't gone past that part yet. But unfortunately, I didn't get to see the end of it because it was their case, and their other, team member was back on. But they kept in touch with me about it, and it's really what totally catapulted me into learning more because I was totally amazed. I was scared, but amazed when I left there. Like, what just happened? That's not a
Well,
way to start.
that's had that kind of impact on quite a few people, but it ends up they end up getting a spiritual ass kicking from doing
Yeah.
this, stepping in and taking this kind of position. How do you adjust and look at what you've done and what's gone on? Why do you think that you didn't draw the target on your back that a lot of other people that decide they're going to step into this field would normally get?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest questions I had when I left that house was why did it attack him? Why
Mhm.
didn't it attack me? I didn't know anything about protection and stuff back then. I was going in completely blind, you know. So I had no idea, and that's one of those things that made me look into it. Like, why? Why did it not? And over the years, I mean, you can have as much protection as you want, but it's never enough. I I don't truly know. I mean, that's why I say I believe it was kind of a calling for me because I just went right after it and I had fear in those cases, but it never stopped me from going in and trying to check them out. I mean, I went through my own experiences. I went through my own attachments. I went through some rough times that I even talk about in that book, even losing faith in what I did. And, it takes a lot to really understand and keep going to cases like that. I was doing it purely to help people,
Mhm.
but it takes a toll on you, and like we don't know to this day, does all of that take a toll on us that all are having medical issues and things when we get older? We don't really know if some of that has to do with it. There's a lot of people that believe that.
Yeah, I know there are. Sometimes I have those deals as well, having just gone through a kind of a gauntlet over the last few weeks of
Yeah.
physical issues and maladies. Sometimes you do wonder, boy, is there something trying to knock me out of this field? And if there is, why? And
Yeah.
maybe I should stay and hang in a little bit longer because I must be doing something doesn't like, right? So we
Right.
we we keep hoping we're gonna stay the path and be okay doing what we do. For people
Yep.
that are out there watching right now, Bill, if you had your druthers and could go back in any way, shape, or form, for people that really want to get involved in this field or think it's going to be fun and exciting, what bit of advice would you have to them before jumping into a task like this?
Well, first, you have to make a decision on what it is you want to do because there are two things here. There's public
Mhm.
ghost hunting and there is investigating, especially in a residential case that is completely different from each other. If you're watching TV shows and you want to go out and you want to go to the local haunted, location, abandoned place, whatever, that's that's still you got to be cautious on what you're doing, but it's very different from when you go into a person's home.
Right.
Yeah, it's a total another level because you're playing with people's lives besides yourself. So you need to learn what you're doing or get with people who know what they're doing before you go in and attempt to play around in a person's home. Because in my opinion, that's where you're going to find the worst of the worst. you know, and also again, you're dealing with people's lives, so you can damage people if you don't know how to know the difference between mental health and demons and addiction and fear, PTSD. There's a lot of different things, and just you got to be cautious. Research. I tell everybody read every book you can find out there on the subject. I read every book I could find because something in that book is going to be something you haven't learned before. Talk to people. Just don't go in blind. It's not
Right.
good to go in blind.
No, and people that think that they're, that's the other problem I have is how do you tell? I mean, when somebody tells me, Dave, I feel this calling, and I kind of look at them, and I don't know where you sit on this. I know you've met a lot of people out in the field as well. Do you know how many people I've met that have had the calling, especially when it comes to dealing with the darker side, who are nuttier than the Mad Hatter, right? And you're like, dude, I don't know that you need this in your life because you've got a lot of other things, and you may think this is a calling. I think it's calling you because you're going to be an easier target. What do
Right.
you make of that? I mean, is that a fair assessment? I know not a broad stroke to everybody, but is
Right.
it a fair assessment that, it's going to come after you as well at some point?
Absolutely. I mean, it preys on the not I don't want to say the weak, but it preys on people who are slightly compromised with things. And if you have any kind of issues, even like an addiction or an illness, you are more susceptible and you're easier to kind of take over in a way. So it's a tough thing. Like I when I came over there, I came out of that first case. I didn't know it was a calling. I just knew something led me down the path and it took me to the right people and I researched the right way and I went the right way with it. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there that I encounter that say they have this calling or they have these things. And I don't want to discredit people I don't know, but it's like some of them have to look into it a little deeper than just some dream they had or something, like really look into
Right.
it a little harder.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's something that shouldn't be trifled with. You said
Yeah.
now that first case, I mean, come out swinging, you step right into a low-level demonic case. Um, how many cases over 30 years do you think that you've legitimately faced something, not an angry or malevolent ghost that's just pissed off and kicking up a storm, but really faced evil?
You 7 out of,
Just
I
think
don't know.
about it. Take your time, Doc. Don't.
Yeah. No, I know it's 7.
Okay, Rain Man, I got you. 7. Yeah, definitely 7. Definitely 7.
7. No, I've been brought in to assess hundreds of cases, and there's been 7 that we've actually had that kind of activity where we've had to have clergy come in, and we've had experiences that I never in my life thought I would witness. I don't even know anymore. I tell people it's well over 1,000 cases, but most of them are nothing. Some of them are spirits, but there's been 7 that I know of in my cases, and that's over 36 years. So to me, it's rare, and I'm kind of glad it's rare that I don't have to deal with that all the time.
Right. Have you ever had a case that has made you step up and say, "You know what? Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the case, and once I contain this and deal with it, maybe it's time for me to step away."
7.
All right. Let's talk about a
Honestly,
couple more of those when we return. Our guest, Dr. Bill Slevin. We've got a link up for his book on today's program guide. Check it out. We'll be back with more right after this.
How are you, Darklings? This is Mark Lanou, innovator, musician, world traveler, and no stranger to the paranormal. Come take a journey with me through this place we call life by picking up my new book, Reality Was Once the Tapestry of the Dreamer. It is available at Barnes & Noble online and will soon be available through other vendors. Get your copy by following the link in this ad or by visiting my official website at markalanlanou.com.
Have you ever felt like something or someone was trying to tell you something? That inner nudge. That quiet whisper from the universe. With intuition sharpened by years of spiritual connection and a deep-rooted gift. Winnie Schrader delivers readings that are compassionate, insightful, and shockingly accurate. Whether you're facing a crossroads healing from heartache, or just curious what the cards reveal, Winnie creates a safe, sacred space to explore your journey. This isn't fortune cookie fluff. This is honest. Intuitive guidance from someone who's helped hundreds find clarity, closure, and confidence. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Book your session now at lovelotustarot.com and take control of your journey. That's lovelotustarot.com. Winnie's sessions are personal, powerful, and often life-changing. That's lovelotustarot.com.
All right, Dr. Bill Slevin, our guest this evening, his book, Living Life Haunted. So you've had 7 demonic cases, and in all 7 cases, you've kind of thought, maybe this is my last one. But yet here you are, Dr. Bill. What do you make of that?
Well, when I come out of them, you have 2 things on your side. Part of it is you want to learn more about what just happened and how that happened, what happened. But then on the other side, you start going, is this too much? Because it can come back to you. It can come back to your family. There's a lot you have to take in with it. The first one, I came out of there, definitely scared and interested, but also a little bit like, well, it didn't bother me. So, it didn't attack me until you become the person attacked. And then that definitely opens your eyes a little bit and makes you kind of reconsider. In one of them, I got knocked probably close to 30 feet across the room by nothing, and when something hits you and there's nothing there to see, You definitely question yourself when you leave there. I mean, I'm laying on the floor and I'm questioning like, how do I get out? But it's something I will never say I'm not scared of. Those things will haunt me forever. But I don't know. The I guess the part of me that wanted to learn and wanted to help kind of overpowered the scared part of me.
We've seen a lot of horror movies over the years, especially that deal with malevolent, dark hauntings, the demonic, oppression, infestation, and in some cases, possession. How close to reality does Hollywood get? Do they ever get close, or is it always, listen, Dave, their levitation was they'd bump off their butt a quarter of an inch off the seat. That's not levitation. But I've seen things like that. I mean, how close is reality?
Yeah, I definitely have seen things that I never thought I would see. Hollywood, of course, is going to make it over the top. But like I said, I've seen people knocked. I've seen things fly across the room. I have seen somebody levitate, but you're talking about maybe a foot off the ground, or they're not crawling backwards up the walls, and there are things that, like I said, I never in my life thought I would see. But Hollywood takes it over. I tell people the best thing to watch, the show I loved, was Evil. Evil was a great show the way they did it, because it was not all demons. It was not all they assessed the cases, and they found, many different things of what it could be. They overdid some things like everything, but I just thought that show was great.
Do you see eyes actually change? Do you see manifestations of things under the skin? Do the heads really spin? I'm just curious, as many people are,
Mhm.
do those type of things really happen in a full-blown case?
Some. I've never seen anything under the skin. I've seen eyes go pitch black. I've seen eyes roll back in the head. I've watched people talk in languages that they didn't know. Um, and absolute completely different voices coming out of people. It's not often, but I have seen stuff like that. There's a line. Um, Hollywood exaggerates, but yeah, there's a lot of things that actually do happen. Yeah, I've never seen anything under the skin like that. Um, but
Can a ghost haunting really get so aggressive that it could be easily mistaken for the demonic?
not in my opinion. I have never been on a ghost, any kind of haunting that had any kind of power like that. Um, it was always like, at the most they can do is knock something off the counter, open a door, maybe. I've never had, or maybe they scratch you, but not in a really harmful way. That's just my opinion. I have never seen something a powerful like a demonic case on a regular ghost case. I've never seen something that had that kind of ability.
If you had to put your finger on most hauntings that you have had to investigate, do they fall under the line of intelligent, residual, or completely misidentified? What level would you put each one of those?
I would say residual is the first. Um, I have encountered a good amount of intelligent, but again, 70 to 80% of our cases are not paranormal, turn out to not be paranormal. But the ones that are, I would say residual, in my opinion, is the most that we encounter. Intelligent is great, and because we love to actually get that intelligent interaction with us. But definitely residual. I see that's the biggest one.
Is there a way to break the back of a residual haunting, something that is non-intelligent that just happens to be existing, like mold or dust in a room? Well, mold and dust, you can clean it, scrub it, get it out. What do you do for a residual haunting to break its grip?
Well, in my experience, it's the way you cleanse the house. I mean, it's the residual is energy. So you have to shift that energy in the house. We use, like a lot of people, we use sage and Palo Santo, but I also use singing bowls to cleanse the energy in the house. We use certain prayers that we say. It also That's what I think. I would say most of the time it'll do that. It's not always easy to get right out if it's, something residual that's been there for 100 years. I had a case where the people said, they kept hearing footsteps going up the stairs every night at like 7 o'clock, and we were there and we actually heard it. And, you try to look in. The other thing is look in and try to research and see if you can find where that residual may be coming from, that you may be able to kind of identify it a little bit and push it, because maybe that person lived there 100 years ago and every night at 7 o'clock they came home and they walked up the stairs to get changed for dinner. And that energy it's a footprint in the earth, so it's not always something, the residual is not always something you can get rid of. Sometimes it's something that they have to see if they want to just understand it's going to be there and it's not going to bother them.
For the benign, just the footsteps going up a flight of stairs, for the sound of rattling cups in the sink, why do you think that's important? Why was that, of all things, recorded into these locations?
Yeah, see, that's a good question. Like I said, I'm thinking.
I know I'd
like,
get one of them.
What? It's well, well, again, it's like what I believe is, like I said, say that man lived in that house and that was his everyday routine back then. At 7 o'clock, he walked up those stairs. So that's something that just repeated day after day after day, and it just became imprinted into that location. That's what I believe. I wish we had more answers on some of these things, and that's what I've been looking for 36 years.
When you do find that there is still a spirit in residence, are they majority ghosts that just have never crossed, or are they ghosts that have passed, moved on, and come back and choose to continue to be here? Is there a difference, and can you tell?
Sometimes it's hard to tell. I've always believed, me and I think most of my team too, is we believe there's two things. We believe a ghost is somebody who has passed on but hasn't crossed over. They're stuck here for some reason. They don't realize they're dead. They're scared to cross over. We believe spirits are people who have crossed over that have come back to visit. Just in our experience. And you can, in my opinion, sometimes you can see the difference, because a spirit who maybe is visiting, maybe it's grandma or something who came by to have a little visit, they don't stay around all the time. Where a ghost is stuck there, so they're
Right.
constantly there, constantly bothering, and maybe that pen they knock off the counter or the door that closes, they're just kind of trying to tell you like, hey, I'm here. Maybe like, what are you doing in my place? Or maybe they don't understand, unfortunately, when you ask and you get the intelligent ones, they never seem to answer the questions you want them to answer.
Mhm.
I wish we could just get something that just said, hey, let me tell you what's going on over here.
Well, why do you think that is too? I mean, if there's all this energy expended from the other side, from these spirits, to make themselves known, why isn't it a clear message? Why is it always hanky-panky nonsense? It's always,
I,
it seems like the spirits want help.
yes.
Why can't they just be clear with what they want so that we can do what we can to help them from this side?
I mean, that's a really tough question. And it's one that I think about a lot. And the only thing I've ever come up with is maybe they don't have the power, the energy to do that. Like I said, with a demon that can come and cause harm, they have a different type of energy, where a spirit or a ghost, we see them do little things and they answer a lot of one word answers. You don't get something answering a sentence all the time. So
Right.
I'm thinking maybe they can't harness the power enough, or maybe they don't know. I joke and I go back to the old movie, Ghost. I mean, with Whoopi Goldberg, and then where he was trying all that time just to move that penny. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's really what it is, but I'm thinking that's why. How come they drain our batteries? They're trying to pull that energy, and maybe they just can't have enough energy to do something and have a whole conversation with us.
Out of all of the visitations you've done to investigate haunted locations, how many true, like, human-looking spirits have you seen?
Few. Um, I I don't know how many, but to me, it's more rare to see them.
Mhm.
We hear them, we feel them, we get other types of interaction and communication with them, but to see them is honestly, it's quite rare. You see a lot of little shadows out of the corner of your eye a lot of times, and you'll see certain things, but to see a full blown apparition, it's yeah, I could probably count them on my hands, you know. Um,
Well, I'll have
maybe
to take you with me, Bill, because I've seen a whole bunch more than a few.
have you? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I've seen like little things here and there, but I have. It's not often that I see a full blown
Right,
apparition. You
right.
know,
Yeah, the apparitions, those again, they call it the Holy Grail for a reason, right? We all wanna have that experience, we all wanna see it, we all wanna have that moment,
right?
but sometimes it just even in a fleeting arm or something moving through, you can see the legs as they cross the room,
Yeah.
which is pretty
Yes.
spectacular, right? When you're into this field and to even have that moment is pretty remarkable. I know we just spent the weekend up at the Palmer House Hotel
Hmm.
doing investigations, and people had some really profound experiences, seeing, hearing, touched. I actually saw one of those. I don't know if you've ever seen those little bells that ring.
Yeah,
I've
yeah. The
seen them
dead
used
bell.
on investigations, but I've never seen them actually work. And this thing was dinging away like a front desk clerk. I mean, it was crazy
Right.
how the spirits were active here, and you get that sense. It is weird though, right? That I mean,
Yeah.
we've had millions upon millions, probably trillions of people at this point that have died.
Oh
How
yeah.
is it just not every place is jam-packed with ghosts?
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. That's what again, these are things I've been trying to figure out for years because why? Exactly why? Do you have a choice? Why are some here? Why aren't there so many? I mean, I did see an uptick in during COVID, and I think a lot of it was so many people were sick the next day in the hospital, the next day they were gone, and I don't think they even realized what happened.
Hmm.
Maybe they're hanging around, but like you're talking about the bell, one thing I try to teach people, like at the lectures I do and things, are people that really want to learn how to do this. And I say, go back to old school. We used to take actual bells and hang them on the cabinet doors. And let me tell you, when you see that bell move and go off, it's a big difference. It will give you that feel, when you see that actual bell move as opposed to something electronic. Even though I'm an electronics guy, I love it, but to see something like that is quite impressive. And I'm glad I learned when I did.
Let's I know you had a lot of cases to dig through, and if right now looking at the cases that didn't make the book, there's always one that drives us nuts that we're like, "Damn it, I should have put that in. I should have shared that," so that we don't give away a lot from your book as that's out. Tell
Right.
me one of the stories that didn't make it, but you wish would have.
Um, there's I could say like there's two types. So there's one that was something that turned out really good, and one that went down a different rabbit hole. Um, my first experience with an actual portal, it was one I was battling with about putting in there, and I had so many, and it was something I had never experienced at the time. And it was, I had psychics with me, and there was during that, because what they said was there was a lot of ghosts in that room, through this portal, and things were moving. There was definitely more energy moving around in that house than a normal haunting, but not something demonic. And there was a lot to that, and I think I saved it because that case was, it probably would have been 100 pages trying to explain that case, because it went on for days that we had to go back there, and it was just something that was one of my first experiences that I battled with about putting that in there. you know um Also, I wanted to put some good stuff in there, and what
Sure.
it's like working with people, and seeing, to me, the best thing is going in there and either it's nothing or helping that family and seeing the relief on their faces when they can live in their house, without fear. Because especially years ago, they would just be, trapped in their house, and that's supposed to be your safe spot,
Right.
and
Well,
especially when they have kids.
when you're in this case dealing with the portal issue,
Mm.
walk us through it. How did this case come to your attention, and how do you define that it's an actual portal? That seems to me to be a a hot button topic that's thrown around a lot, and I don't know. I mean, you'd think we'd be blipping in and out of the universe all the time with the amount of portals that are in every house, right?
Right,
Talk
exactly.
to me.
No, it was a case that I was working with a couple guys. It was a team, but it wasn't like a really organized team. They got a call. They went in. They called me in because they said that they noticed a weird energy in a house, and they noticed things moving that they haven't seen before like that, and they wanted me to help come in and assess, could it be something more demonic? Could it be something, because they've never experienced it? And I went in and I was a little confused because it didn't seem like that heaviness that you get in on a demonic case. And, some of the things I would do where we do tests, where we do like blessings in the house and things, it wasn't reacting to that, which always does, in my opinion, with demonic cases. So I was a little confused myself. And I called in somebody I know at the time that was a psychic, and they brought along a friend of theirs that was another psychic. And I mean, I don't have that ability to see those things, but from what I understand and the people I've trusted over the years, it's the psychics that can see these portals and can help close them. And they're the ones that came in. And as soon as they walked in, they went without knowing anything. They went right to the room where we had all the activity and explained where it was right there. And that there were things coming in and out, for they don't know how long. And they were talking to the family, and everything they were saying to the family about, did this happen? Did you notice this? And how long? It was all completely matching up with everything the family was telling them. And again, this was even before the internet. So there was nothing out there that people were researching, and they couldn't look these people up or anything like that. And opened my eyes to it a little bit, because same thing, I've heard about portals. I've never experienced one. And since I guess I don't have the ability to see it, I didn't know what to do, and they were able to close it. It took multiple tries, because they said things kept coming through and reopening it. And then they also believe that, here's the other thing that a lot of people don't understand with a case like that, or any kind of like basic haunting or anything. A lot of times it's the people in the house that are causing it. And also they need to change the things they're doing in their lifestyles to make sure that they're not reopening it or bringing things back in. Because if they brought it there and you cleanse the house, or you close the portal, when you leave, they continue to do the same things, and it's going to come right back. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize that. They have to sometimes shift their own energy and their own things in their house to fix that.
But how did those portals open to begin with, Bill? Are there just natural occurring portals all over the planet, or do we have to have done something to create this opening?
I've heard both. I haven't gotten a definitive answer on that. I would say the majority of cases I've been on that had what was said to be a portal, usually you found out that they were doing something in there. They were playing with Ouija boards. They were doing something that kind of summoned it in. Some of them, I don't know if they're not telling us. Sometimes they don't want to tell us everything, I would say they're being opened. I would think more than just they're opening, because I think if that was the case, we'd have a lot, or at least I would have experienced a lot more if they were just popping up all over the place. I'd probably have them in my house.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do this. We'll all go around and look for a portal in our house, but we're going to take a quick break. While you're out there, make sure you don't fall into that portal. We'll be back with more of the very best in paranormal programming. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is my Paranormal 60.
A vampire in Rhode Island?
A UFO crash in Connecticut?
A flying moose in Maine?
A haunted bridge that calls your name?
New England is weird.
Really weird.
Wicked Strange by Jeff Belanger and Frank Grace is your ticket to the bizarre. Ghosts, monsters, urban legends, and roadside oddities you won't believe until you see them.
So pre-order now on Amazon. It drops September 2nd.
Assuming the Black Dog of West Peak doesn't get you first.
Let's get strange.
Wicked Strange. Pre-order your copy now on Amazon.
Oh, are you reading me? Come in. Hello? Greetings from the Shadow, and welcome to Shadowzine. My name is Jeff Belanger. I'm an author, podcaster, and explorer of the unexplained. For 30 years, I've been investigating the paranormal, UFOs, monsters, and things that bump in the night. Lately, you may have noticed how major TV networks and even social media networks have been pushing our favorite subject back into the shadows. I say good. That's why I launched Shadowzine, a monthly underground publication that covers your favorite topics in depth by some of the leading writers and researchers out there. If you're looking for 30-second TikTok clips, go somewhere else. If you're ready for a deeper dive, put down your phone and pick up Shadowzine. You can't find it in stores. This is old school print. Head to shadowzine.com and be part of the underground revolution. That's shadowzine.com, and I'll see you in the shadow.
We're back, living life haunted, as one can on this show. Our guest, Dr. Bill Slevin, he has written the book. He has shared his stories, his cases, his experiences, his insights, and it is out there and available for you. You can pick up a copy of the book on the link that we have included on today's program guide. Also, let me tell you, make sure to rate and review these books, because that goes a long way to help out the authors as well. Just buying the book is great. We all get paid. But what helps us is if you rate and review it, so that more and more people get to find out about our book. Just like the algorithms on your favorite social media, you have some things you have to do in order as authors to get seen and heard and recognized more. And for you, it takes just a matter of seconds. For us, it makes all the difference. So please check it out, rate and review it. All right, Dr. Bill Slevin, if that's really your name. Let's get started back. We've only got about 10, 15 minutes left together. I want to hear some of your favorite stories, good, bad, and ugly. Just kind of what can you tell us on some of the other cases and storylines that you've been a part of over the past 30 some years?
Well, so I'll tell a little bit of one that's in there. It was one of these first cases where I can tell you how I learned to look in other places. Like, well, I won't even talk about the one in the book. I'll talk about some random ones. I've had so many cases where you can go in and you'll hear all the basic things you expect. You might hear some noises in the wall, all types of things. We have found everything from animals in the walls, and there's so many different things. But as far as like a specific case, there's so many. I mean, it really, for me, honestly, was always helping people and seeing the change in them when you're able to fix whatever's there.
Well, have you had to deal with many cases that involve the spirits of children or reported children?
Yeah, I have. Well, we believe. I mean, you can't always tell if they're telling you the truth or not, but
Right.
we have, like, I remember one specifically that the young girl in the house, I think she was 13. She was the one that was experiencing most of what was going on. The parents didn't really know if something was wrong with her or there was something in there. You know, we believed her because we always believe everybody. I'm going to go in skeptical to make sure, because we don't want to judge, but we always believe that what the people are telling us, they're telling us is true. Doesn't mean there's a ghost there, but what they are experiencing is something that they're really seeing. So we went into a little deep dive with this girl because she was very insistent on, there was a little girl in her room. One of the psychics I worked with absolutely connected to this girl. And when the interesting thing about this case was, when you really investigate and research, I had a researcher back then that was really, really good and did like a really deep into this house and this property, and found out that the girl that they believed they were speaking with had died in that house many, many years ago, a few families back in that house, and nobody knew about it.
Wow.
So when you could get that kind of evidence and then match it up to the actual research that you find out there, that's something really, in my opinion, that's something really interesting.
What do you do then to help a child spirit, especially when if it's lost, it's confused, it's looking for its parents, or afraid to cross because it doesn't know what comes next? How do you help something like that?
We try to just talk to it, and especially the psychics. They have an ability, some of them have an ability to really make them feel comfortable, and some will listen, some may not. It might take a little bit, but in my opinion, we've had some really, really good experiences in what we believe are the people crossing over. Do they actually leave and cross over? We hope so, because we're not there just to help the people. We're there to help the spirits too. But do they really cross over, or do they just leave? We don't really know. But in the cases where they don't come back, we do believe that they have gone on, and we hope that it helps them.
Do you ever cross a spirit over or go in to do a house clearing, and then shortly after one of the neighbors starts calling you because activity started in their house? Have the spirits just wandered from, Barney's
Right.
over to Fred's for the day? How do you, have you ever had that?
We have, I believe it's more when you're cleansing. It depends on how you cleanse and what you're telling them to do and what your intent is. Because if you're some people just cleanse to just push them out of the house. And if you just push them out of the house, they're going to go somewhere. But we did have a case where I don't think it was from us doing it, but it was two neighbors that said that they were experiencing things. And then when we went there to investigate it first, all of a sudden within, I don't know if we stirred it up, but within about a week, it was an apartment complex. There was 8 different apartments that all had problems, and they didn't know each other. They just heard somebody talking about it, and they said, no, we just started having this problem. And then we wound up having to sit there with 8 different, families it wasn't even on one row of apartments. It was 2 separate rows, but they were doing a lot of construction in the area. We believe maybe the construction stirred it up a bit, because we have seen that. But I don't know. And a lot of them were actually telling us the same exact thing that they saw, that we believe it was bouncing from house to house. It was just being like really erratic, just going through the neighborhood. I don't know if it was upset, I don't know if it was mad about the construction and it was just hopping back. It wasn't bothering anybody. It was freaking them out a little bit, but they would see it. And then the next thing they know, they would get a call from the neighbor saying, did you just see something? Because it just came through here. And they're like, yeah, we just saw it leave our place and go towards you. So that was an interesting one, because I've never had that with that many people in one area.
What was the course? I mean, was the apartment building on old burial grounds, or it was an old hospital at one point? What were you able to figure out?
Well, it was down here in Florida. I mean, there's so much Seminole land down here. We believe that where they were doing it was right by a highway, and they were digging up the construction right by the highway. And we believe that a lot of that land there was Seminole land. And we think it just stirred something up, because we cleansed, we worked with them for many, many, many days. And then all of a sudden, when the construction stopped too, then everything stopped. So sometimes there's also something that I don't have a lot of experience with. One of my teammates, Tom Springer, he is great with this, and I didn't have him back then, but he can see and talk to elementals, which is something that I never knew a lot about. And sometimes those type of cases, that's what that is, because it's the earth elemental that's being rattled by the construction. And that's a whole different show. That's something that I'm learning a lot about myself, just from Tom.
Now that seems like a moment you get in over your head when you're dealing with ancient earth elementals, beings that have been here since the beginning of time. You're shaking it up. But again, we have destroyed this planet with building up. I often wonder, is war, is the aggression, the anger, everything, is it natural to us, or is it the rage of the land that we have desecrated by tearing it to pieces? Is it the elementals? Is it earth itself agitating, irritating, causing this kind of derision to make people so volatile towards one another, and in hopes of, like a dog shaking the fleas off its back by getting them, instigated into wars and battles? They'll kill each other off.
Right. I mean, it could be. It definitely. I mean, when you, even like when you have a place, like we used to go to this abandoned prison in Belglade, Florida. It was a great place. It was 260 acre, abandoned prison in the middle of the sugarcane fields. It was a great place to go and investigate, because there was no power out there. There was no nothing. So when your equipment goes off, it's
but you know what is out there, Bill? There are snakes and spiders and alligators and probably crocodiles and some caiman and maybe a spotted leopard or two. So, I guess your idea of cool and my idea of cool places to investigate are slightly different.
It was infested with barn owls, and that's something that when you don't know is a very interesting experience at 2 o'clock in the morning when they start screeching.
Yeah.
But when they what I was getting to, when they knock this prison down, a lot of people think, oh, well, just take the house down or move and everything goes away or whatever. No, when they take that prison down, they put a factory up there. So again, with like you're saying, if that was elementals or earth, where are they going? They're now in that same location. They're just in the new building. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff we don't know, and yeah, I'm sure there's some things that are definitely stirred up from what we do to this land.
What lessons kind of have you learned, especially as you're writing your stories down and taking the time to reevaluate these things? What are some of the biggest takeaways for you from working in this field so long?
Really, if you're going to get into it, really understand why you want to do it, because there's a level that you might think, oh, this is all fun, and then all of a sudden you might get into something like I did on accident, and you're not going to know how to deal with that, and it can affect you, it can affect your family, it can affect you down the road. It's something that I encourage people, if you want to get into this, learn a bit, but definitely learn what you're doing. And if you're going out and just doing, like I was talking about, an abandoned prison, understand the dangers aside from the paranormal. You go into that building, and besides, the cops coming to get you, there's a lot of environmental dangers in there. People don't realize there's people that have been very damaged from going into buildings and inhaling, a black mold and asbestos and all types of things. There's a lot of things you need to consider before just grabbing a recorder and running out to some place. I would say, just if you want to do it, learn from people, go and find a team local and get on there, and also don't assume everything is paranormal. Learn to open up your senses and understand that things can be explained sometimes, or else you're never gonna experience the real stuff, because you're just gonna think every little sound is something.
Bill, if you could go back and talk to yourself 30 years from now with the knowledge you have, what one piece of advice would you impart on young Bill Slevin on the beginning of this journey?
Be prepared. um, I would say, well, it's tough, because I would say, the same things I did. I really wouldn't change anything. I like how I did it, and I like how I went about it. I would just say I would have probably tried to learn a little more before I went on that first case, because I wasn't expecting what I went into.
Sure.
Not everybody's going to have that experience, but if I would have known a little more, I don't know. It's just something. That's the only thing. I mean, I like how I learned and how I explored everything.
Just a little bit more education before going in, like you recommended for other people, understanding
Yeah,
what they're doing
absolutely.
and what they may come up against so that they have a better handle on it. Dr. Bill Slevin, I appreciate you coming on this evening, sharing information. Living Life Haunted, a true journey through the paranormal, is out and available. We have a link for it on today's program guide. And you're out doing talks and presentations and
Yes.
investigations still, correct?
Absolutely. I have conventions, lectures. We're going to do book signings. I have a lot of things coming up.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Nice to catch up and talk with people that have some insights to share with us. And what Dr. Bill Slevin has shared with us isn't just his career, it is a calling, one born from personal experience, forged in the fire of countless confrontations with the unexplained. His journey reminds us that the paranormal isn't a hobby for the curious. And for some, it's a relentless pursuit that demands courage, compassion, empathy, and an unshakable will. So whether you believe in ghosts or not, Bill's story is proof that the human spirit, both living and dead, they have power beyond measure. And maybe, just maybe, the truest hauntings aren't in the abandoned houses and shadowed corners, but in the way they stay with us long after the encounter is over. I hope that the darkness of this world is just a little brighter with the information that we share here every week, and I appreciate you making me part of your world, because you are always welcome in my world on the Paranormal 60.